The title of this section is Removing Self-Sabotage and Mental Blocks. Before we begin, I would like to ask you a question. But first, I want you to think of something that you desire. It could be anything that you would like to create in your life. Now here's my question. Why don't you have it yet? The answer to this question is very important, and we'll get back to it in a minute. Let's face it, most of us feel from time to time that life is just one big struggle with a series of never-ending problems. Yet as you are learning, life doesn't have to be this way. In fact, it can be just the opposite. Life is not about struggle and overcoming problems. Life is about pursuing and creating what we truly desire in an easy, stress-free manner. Now let's go back to the question that I just asked you. I asked you to think of something that you want, something that you desire. Then I asked you, why don't you have it yet? Regardless of how you answer that question, there's only one correct answer. And here it is. If you don't have what you want, it's because your subconscious mind holds contradictory intentions for you. To put it simply, you want something and your subconscious mind wants something else. For example, you might think, I want to earn more money. But your dominant subconscious belief is, it's almost impossible for me to earn the amount of money that I would like to earn. What's happening here is that your subconscious desires and your subconscious beliefs are in contradiction. You want more money, but your subconscious thinks it's difficult or nearly impossible for you to earn it. So after years of contradictory messages, you still don't have the amount of money that you desire. The reason is that your conscious and your subconscious have been in conflict most of the time. You consciously say, I want more money, and then your subconscious says, it's too difficult to create that amount of money. As a result, it causes an emotional block in your energetic system, and the messages cancel each other out. When there is a conflicting agenda or disharmony between your conscious and your subconscious mind, it is literally impossible to create what you desire. Now you're not alone. Conflict, manifesting as emotional blocks, are common in most people. Have you ever wondered why athletes get into performance slumps? This defies normal logic. There is no physical reason for any athlete to go into a slump and perform below par. He or she is the same highly trained athlete before, during, and after the slump. So no matter how highly skilled they are, all athletes go through this phase throughout their career. Why is that? Why are addictions so hard to overcome? Most addicts want to be free from their destructive patterns. They know and will often admit that their addiction is costing them their health, their relationships, their money, even their lives. Yet they continue with their addictions. Why? And why is depression so hard to overcome? Depression is one of the most difficult psychological issues to handle. It's not unusual for an individual who suffers from depression to go through years of expensive therapy and still not overcome it. The depression seems to have a grip on them that just won't let go. Why is this? Why does healing sometimes take so long? We get a lingering cold that just won't go away, a headache or a pain that keeps coming back, or a broken bone that takes forever to heal. Why is that? We try changing our situation, and yet we seem to make little or no real progress. Why? Let me explain what's really happening. In order to effectively make changes, you have to understand how you created those conflicts in the first place. Look at it this way. We all have within us a blueprint or a map of reality that contains all of our thoughts, beliefs, strategies, feelings, and our unique ways of sorting and filtering information. Each person has their own map of reality that contains their view of the world based on who they think they are and what they've experienced in the past. This explains why several different people can experience the same situation in entirely different ways. Their situation or reality is recorded not as it actually happens, but as how they perceive it through their filters. It's the way you look at an event in your life through your green sunglasses that we talked about earlier. When you look at people's lives, it would seem that everyone is wearing different colored glasses because they see things so differently. When we were born, we immediately started to create our individual map of reality. Each time we experienced something new, we added it to our map. And every time we repeated the same situation or behavior, it was reinforced as part of our map of reality. In other words, we gave it meaning. When we experienced an event in our life that was traumatizing for us and made us feel uncomfortable, we recorded it in such a way that it would protect us when similar situations occurred in the future. It was our way of protecting ourselves so that we would recognize it again and take evasive action. We learned to categorize information about our environment that we perceived as potentially harmful. The goal was always safety and security. In order to do this, we learned to always watch out and avoid certain situations. Now, based on what you've learned so far, what do you think happened? By focusing on what we didn't want to happen, on not getting ourselves into those situations, we achieved the opposite effect. Through the law of attraction, we ended up actually attracting and creating those same events over and over again. Now, let's add another dimension to this. We also look for the familiar because we are creatures of habit. We consciously know that the negative situations we get ourselves into are bad for us. But unconsciously, we actually feel comfortable in those situations because they're familiar to us, and we're used to them. Therefore, we seek them out. We seek the familiar even if those situations do not serve us and may even harm us, because we are attracted to them at an unconscious level. The motivating factor here is our desire for safety and security and our fear of the unknown. This becomes so important to us that we literally construct our maps of reality so that they will continue to lead us to the familiar, to those things that we've experienced before and know how to handle. In order to do this, we use something called psychological filtering. These psychological filters only allow us to pay attention to certain information that we are comfortable with and find non-threatening. The way we do this is we distort or reject any other information that may be in conflict with our idea of safety and security. Babies and young children have few, if any, filters. They just record new information as reality. This period is called the imprint period because sensory information is constantly being imprinted on their minds. This information is unfiltered, so their minds soak up one image after another from their environment just like a sponge. The next phase of life, from the ages of 7 to 14, is when children go through the modeling period, where they're constantly modeling or imitating other people's behavior. They unconsciously imitate celebrities, idols they see in music videos, movies, sports, or even their parents' or friends' behavior. Then from the ages of 14 to 21, people begin to determine, usually unconsciously, what's important to them. This is called the socialization period. At that point, they begin to break away from the modeling period, becoming more individualized. But most still follow the crowd because they want to fit in. During this period of growth, most people are not aware that they're creating their maps of reality. That's why when we become adults, most of us are still living out our unconscious programming from childhood. When we're not aware that we have a program map of reality, we move through life like robots. We are unconsciously following our maps because that's our reality. It's what we believe to be true. You are using your map of reality to navigate through life right now. As you are confronted with new situations, people, circumstances, or opportunities, you unconsciously refer to your map so that you can safely navigate through life. And of course, when you do this, you repeat the same responses and behaviors that are familiar to you, even if they don't get you what you want. This continues throughout our life. In fact, it's happening right now. As you hear me speak, you are actually using filters to perceive what I am saying. You are filtering this information that I'm giving you right now and matching it or comparing it against your previous information, what you already know and believe to be true. As a result, at certain points in this program, you will find yourself disagreeing with me, because what I'm saying does not match your map of reality. If you compare this filtered information with the information that you already believe, and it conflicts, your filters will more than likely prevent you from accepting that what I'm saying is true. In other words, if what I am saying does not match what you already believe to be true, it may cause you to feel anxious, unsafe, or even uncomfortable. This would cause you to either distort or delete what I'm saying, or dig in your heels and present an argument that what I've just said cannot possibly be true. Either response will prevent you from learning new concepts, values, and beliefs that could dramatically improve the quality of your life. It is important for you to understand that if this happens, you are not actually thinking or using any logic. Your response is purely reactive and emotional based on your map of reality. The bottom line is this: if you don't have what you want in life and you are not where you want to be, then you need a new map of reality. We need to continually update our map of reality. However, if you don't realize that your current map is outdated, you won't update it or invest in a new one. We all have the power to update our beliefs and upgrade our maps of reality. How do we do this? First, by becoming aware of the limited beliefs that are no longer serving us. Then replace those beliefs with ones that get you the results that you desire. All you have to do is to look at any of your beliefs and ask yourself this question: is this belief moving me toward what I want or away from what I want? If it's not moving you toward what you want, then you need to update your map. I found that for many years I was held back by a dysfunctional map of reality. I dismissed, distorted, generalized, and deleted information based on my desire to stay safe. And guess what? As long as I was unaware of what I was doing, my life never changed. But when I updated my map of reality with new beliefs, strategies, and values that I specifically chose to get me where I want to go, my life turned around almost immediately. I also want to warn you that your mind or your ego likes your present map of reality, even if it's not working for you. So when you try to update it, you may get some resistance. Change is scary and unfamiliar. Your ego wants to protect you from change. This resistance can take the form of stress, bodily discomfort, fear, doubt, worry, anger, or anxiety. Based on your desire for safety, you may even revert back to your old map of reality. So it's important to know what's happening and be prepared for it. You may have already figured out that your map of reality and your subconscious mind are one and the same thing. The way it works is that every thought you think is received by your brain, which is an organ of the conscious mind. Here it is subjected to filtering, reasoning, and logic based on what's already programmed on your map of reality. Once the conscious or objective mind has decided that a thought is true, once you've filtered it, the subconscious activates it through the law of attraction and it comes into your life. It's no longer subject to any argument whatsoever. The subconscious mind cannot argue. It can only agree with what it already believes to be true until you change your map of reality. Put simply, every thought that you think has its own energetic vibrational frequency. That thought, repeated over and over, is impressed into your subconscious mind. It is added to your map of reality, and through the law of attraction, it will energetically pull in a matching person, place, thing, or circumstance that's in harmony with that thought. In other words, it finds its corresponding vibrational match. When your subconscious mind matches your conscious thought, it cooperates completely. However, if the conscious thought is in conflict with what's stored in your subconscious map of reality, it cannot manifest in your life. That's why when you feel any negative emotion, it's a signal from your subconscious mind that you are not in harmony with what you desire. It means that you are in conflict, and this conflict creates an emotional energy block within your electromagnetic system. When this happens, then you have a tug of war between your beliefs in your conscious and your subconscious minds. However, the subconscious is much stronger than the conscious. because it has proof that what it believes is true. This proof comes from past experience. When this happens, a negative emotional block is formed in your energetic system. This process is known as psychological reversal. Psychological reversal is when we consciously want one thing, yet do another, often the exact opposite of the thing that we want. Psychological reversal is the reason why people often try to make money and fail even though they have the ability to create wealth. It's also a factor in other areas of life where we continue to fail. When this happens, we self-sabotage ourselves without realizing it. Self-sabotage from our subconscious mind is often our own worst enemy. Until you understand psychological reversal, or self-sabotage, your seeming inability to make progress in areas of your life that are obviously important to you can be mistakenly blamed on such things as lack of willpower, poor motivation, spacing out, having a weak character, or even being cursed. But none of this is true. You are simply psychologically reversed. You are trying to succeed using the wrong map of reality. It is vital to understand the role of psychological reversal. When you have psychological reversal, it actually causes the energy system in your body to change polarity. This usually happens outside of your awareness. You don't ordinarily feel it happening. However, it is a literal polarity reversal from positive to negative in your body's energy system. It's like having your batteries in backwards. Have you ever put batteries into something, and then you turned it on and nothing happened? Then you took them out and put them in correctly, and everything ran smoothly? The reason is that there was a polarity reversal. What you did was correct the polarity reversal. It's as simple as that. Whenever we have psychological reversal in any area of our lives, when we have conflict and our batteries are in backwards, it prevents us from being, doing, or having what we want. Permanent or significant change also becomes impossible. The downside is when we don't have what we want, which in our mind equals failure, we are often left with feelings of self-rejection, guilt, shame, blame, self-condemnation, and self-judgment. At a deep level, we truly believe that we cannot overcome our problems and have what we want. So we punish ourselves and deny ourselves, which only makes us feel worse. This limits our progress, or worse, we feel that we don't deserve to overcome our problems and have what we want. This process runs on automatic pilot unless we consciously do something to change our inner map of reality, our subconscious belief about how life works. With some people, psychological reversal shows up in almost every area of their lives. It's easy to spot these people because nothing ever seems to go right for them. They are usually the ones that complain a lot and consider themselves as victims. These people are also more likely to suffer from depression. Now, this is not to imply that an individual who experiences psychological reversal is negative about everything in their life. Positive thinkers experience psychological reversal as well. For the most part, they're positive, but in certain areas of their life, they're definitely blocked. And where this happens, they will sabotage their own efforts no matter how hard they try to succeed. It's not a character deficiency. They aren't weak. They're just psychologically reversed. Most people know, at least intuitively, when negative thinking blocks their progress. However, what they don't know is that this negative thinking also creates an energy block in their body's electromagnetic system. Because of the accumulation of their negative self-defeating thoughts, fears, and doubts, their energy systems literally work against them. As a result, no amount of positive thinking seems to work. When I work with people, the first thing that I do is reassure them that they are not weak and the world's not against them, that it's their own energy system that's causing the problem. Their batteries are in backwards. When this happens, no matter how much they want to change their circumstances, psychological reversal will stop them dead in their tracks. It can stop you too, in any area of your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. As you can see, you may have good intentions and consciously wish to improve your life. However, subconsciously, you have programmed into your map of reality limits to how much improvement or achievement that you can allow yourself to experience. You may consciously say, "I want this," or "I believe that." But your subconscious believes differently and automatically undermines your intentions or your desires. Now here's the good news. You can remove and replace the limiting beliefs that are part of your map of reality. In fact, psychological reversal can be corrected quickly and easily. One of the best ways to do this is something that I've said 100 times already. Focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. Unfortunately, most people focus on avoiding what they don't want. When we avoid or try to move away from what we don't want, we continue to recreate it. If you're always recreating what you don't want, then you are not in alignment with your desire. You are in conflict. And when you're in conflict, you will miss opportunities for success. When you keep your eye out for opportunities, you're moving toward what you want. When you're busy resisting what you don't want, the thing you're trying to move away from, you get more of the same. Moving away from what you don't want will almost always get you negative results. We are more likely to experience failure when moving away from what we don't want. When we move toward what we do want, however, we are in vibrational harmony with our desire, and through the law of attraction, it must manifest in our life. If you are constantly trying to avoid failure, the chances are you're thinking about failure most of the time. So you worry about failure and you try to avoid it at all costs. In trying to avoid failure, however, you're simply focusing on failure. Instead of thinking, "How can I succeed?" you're asking, "How can I avoid failing?" All this time, you're still focused on failure. By doing this, you cannot experience success because your entire map of reality is wrapped around failure. Unfortunately, most people are still carrying around their thoughts of past abuses, fears, failures, guilt, and so on. Their consistent thoughts have created their present map of reality, and the condition of their life provides proof that their maps are right. So as we've said before, if you keep thinking what you've been thinking, you will keep getting what you've been getting. It's important to understand the patterns and themes in your life. What are the consistent themes in your life? What are you drawn to over and over again? We're often taught the same lesson over and over again until we finally get it. These lessons usually take the form of recurring themes in our lives. When something negative happens, we should ask ourselves, what am I still believing about myself that would attract this into my life? What's the recurring theme here? If you have uncomfortable feelings and you still can't see what needs to be corrected, ask this question to your essential silent partner. What is it that I still need to know about my life that needs correction so that I don't keep experiencing this over and over again? No one consciously wants to suffer. All of us want a better life, free from fear and worry. It follows then that the way to achieve this is to change our predominant consistent thoughts, because changing our consistent thoughts automatically changes our reality. The best way to go about this is to use a process of erase and replace. First, we have to erase our limiting beliefs that no longer serve us. Next, replace those thoughts and beliefs with ones that do serve us. To accomplish this, you must begin by identifying those thoughts that offer the most resistance or where you sabotage yourself. Some common examples are, I definitely want to lose weight, but I just can't stop eating. I know I want to do well in school, but I just can't get myself to study. I want more money, but I can't find a way to earn more. I want to clean up the clutter from my office, but I just don't feel like doing it. I want to finish this project, but I just can't make myself do it. Notice what's common about all these self-sabotaging statements. They all have a but right after we state what we want. When you put a but after any statement, it completely negates everything that you said before it. When people say, I want this or I want to do that, but, I only pay attention to what's said after the but. because what they said after the but is what they really believe at a deep inner level. The key is to identify your negative self-talk and change it, because your self-talk creates your consistent thoughts. You literally talk yourself into believing that whatever you say is true. Beliefs are very powerful. We fight wars over our beliefs. Psychology, religious, and political systems are built on beliefs. But sometimes these beliefs aren't true. We just think they are. We need to examine our beliefs to see if they serve us or harm us. When you challenge your own beliefs, you get a better sense of whether or not they're logical or self-sabotaging. Because there is no reality, only perception, you can use the following logic test to see if your beliefs are no longer serving you. First of all, ask yourself, is what I believe really true? The second question you need to ask yourself is this thought or belief in my best interest? The next question is, does this thought make my life easier or more difficult? And finally, does thinking this way get me what I want? When you ask these logical questions, then you come to a logical conclusion. It's obvious after running this test of logic that it's in your best interest to change any belief that no longer serves you. Once you're convinced that it no longer serves you, then you can replace it. Every time you speak, you condition your system and you reinforce the beliefs that you already believe are true. The way you do this is habitual. For example, how do you feel after saying these words that are loaded with negative energy? Depressed, exhausted, ugly, hateful, devastated, desperate, terrible, awful, afraid, dying, lonely, stressed out, or drained. What do all these words have in common? All of them create negative feelings and emotion. Now, how do you feel when you say these words? Excited, passionate, energized, first class, vibrant, wonderful, fabulous, blessed, ecstatic, gifted, magical, awesome, unstoppable. What do all these words have in common? All of these words create positive feelings and emotion. What this means is that you need to find words that create positive emotion. Remember, we always want to reach for the thought that feels best. One of the ways that you can do this is to use affirmations or intention statements. These are statements that we say out loud or repeat in our mind that express positive states that we would like to experience or conditions that we would like to change in our lives. Now you may be asking, do affirmations really work? If we listen to our own self-talk, we will see concrete proof that affirmations absolutely do work. Our self-talk, that chatter inside of our head and our everyday conversations, contain constant affirmations or repetitious statements reflecting our beliefs and attitudes. Constant affirmations become imprinted on our subconscious map of reality as a snapshot of how we think. These thoughts have brought us to where we are right now. So our consistent thoughts either allow us to create what we desire, or they keep us from creating what we desire. Why are affirmations so powerful, and how do they actually work? When repeated with emotion, they overlay what was there before. It's like having a tape recorder. You record something on the tape and play it over and over again. However, if you don't like what's on the tape, you can re-record over it. When you use affirmations, this is what's happening. It allows the mind to see things differently. The affirmations eventually become new consistent thoughts installed in our minds. Since our consistent thoughts become our reality, affirmations are the key to changing our reality. What you are experiencing in your life right now is a reflection of your past affirmations that your mind still believes to be true. The good news is that once a new affirmation or consistent thought takes root, it's just as persistent as the previous thought which it replaced. To revert back to where you were would be inconsistent with this new resident thought. I have found that affirmations are the easiest way, as well as the most powerful way, to replace negative thoughts. They are highly reliable, and they always work when used in a consistent manner. In my book, Beyond Positive Thinking, I have a chapter titled Imprinting for Success. In this chapter, I have written extensively about the use of affirmations or intention statements. If you want to create affirmations that really work, I suggest you read this chapter. It will show you exactly how to construct your affirmations for the best possible results. The key to overcoming mental blocks and self-sabotage is to change our map of reality. When we update our map of reality, the results we produce in our lives must and will change.